Welcome, Cinepals. I'm Jabby Kaway, joined by Andrew Flash Gordon.
What's up?
We are watching a film theory video, Puss in Boots Should Be Dead. Shrek. From the film theorists. Did I hurt your ears? I'm sorry.
What'd you say? I can't hear you.
You guys, thanks so much for joining us. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching while you subscribe and upvote. Subscribe to the Film Theorist. There's a link in the description below if you want to click on that link, give the original video an upvote, and subscribe to him from there. We watched Puss in Boots together, their most recent one, and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. I hope you all watch it. If you guys haven't watched that, I don't know why you'd be watching this. Make sure you watch Puss in Boots and see our reaction if you can. Ideally, there's a link in the description below, or a pinned comment, or a button at the end of this video. Definitely one of my favorite animations of all time. It might have dethroned Kung Fu Panda for me, which is a big deal for me. Without further ado, let's jump into this. Here we go.
Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have you subscribe to Film Theory. Did it work?
It did. I'm already subscribed.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show who's your favorite fearless theorist. Do you guys see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? Review in a word, wow, we have come a long way from the original Puss in Boots.
First rule of Bean Club, you do not talk about Bean Club. Second rule of Bean Club, you don't talk about Bean Club.
Needless to say, I did not go in expecting this new movie to be all that great, but Dreamworks basically kicked down the door and said,
Hey, you want to see something cool?
the story is wholesome, the characters are immediately iconic, and the animation, man, between this film, Into the Spider-Verse, and Mitchell's versus the Machine,
I don't know that
Mickey
one.
and the gang gotta be quaking in their boots. Mouse in boots. In case you haven't seen it yet, The Last Wish follows our hero cat as he realizes that he's on the last of his 9 lives. And so he goes on an adventure to find a fallen star that'll help him wish those lives back. But Puss isn't the only one who wants that wish. His former partner, Kitty Softpaws, Goldilocks and her 3 bears crime family, and the unapologetically evil Pie Bear and Big Jack Horner are all after it too.
Oh my word, it's the Noble Phoenix!
Pretty boss flamethrower, right?
I love this guy. He is one of my all-time favorite villains. And if that wasn't bad enough, a mysterious hooded wolf wants to claim Puss's last life for himself. Why? Well, because he's death.
And I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or in any other fancy way. I'm death. Straight up.
What did you think of his voice? Death's voice.
I thought he was menacing. He was haunted. He scared the crap out of me.
Yeah?
And I liked him.
What did you think of his vocal quality? I was wondering if that was a choice or if that was just his natural voice. Because he has a very throaty kind of way of talking that is unusual, and you don't hear it in animation very often.
I mean, I wasn't really thinking about it too much, to be honest, but I mean, regardless of whatever it was, I just thought it was very fitting of the character. As I mentioned earlier, it was very menacing, it was very daunting, it was scary, and I just thought like he was a true menacing threat. So I like the choice that they made with his voice, personally.
So the reason I asked about it is obviously because I noticed it. If you've ever done voiceovers, you start to notice everything, especially if you're editing your own voiceover auditions. You notice when there are little pops in people's mouths, things that people do over and over again. For instance, the use of the prolific use of the word like and you start to hear all of that stuff, especially if people use it a lot.
Yes.
And so if someone speaks more with a throaty nature, you're going to pick up on that. And so I haven't heard nobody talk about this at all. That's why I was just curious. Sorry about that.
Physical manifestation of death itself is after Puss in Boots because he doesn't feel like Puss has respected the lives that he's been given. That said, all of this about wishing for more lives and death chasing him, it's all a moot point. Puss should already be dead. His 9th life is long gone. Forget the Tumblr sexy man wolf or pie boy over there. The biggest threat is Puss himself. Based on everything that we see from him in this movie, he'd be dead multiple times over. By my count, we're talking at least 7. And I don't mean stuff like riding explosive fireworks or getting thrown into signs that crash through windows or anything like that. No, you see, loyal theorists, almost every choice that Puss makes endangers his life. Death is absolutely right about Puss playing it fast and loose with these lives, but we're not talking about the big picture adventuring stuff. I'm talking about all the mundane, everyday things that's slowly killing this cat. Puss in Boots is wasting his final life, and I'm about to prove it to you. Grab your star maps and your therapy dogs, loyal theorists. It's time to dive in. First of all, let's just start with what we see Puss in Boots eating throughout the film. See, Puss eats and drinks a lot of stuff that would be super unhealthy for a cat. And before you jump down into the comments section telling me that this is just a cartoon with a magic cat, MatPat, you need to stop taking all these things way too seriously. First off, do you know what channel you're on? Though we absolutely should be taking a look at what Puss is eating and drinking because we already know that it straight up was the cause of one of his deaths. During that opening montage, Puss eats Shellfish. During this opening montage, Puss eats wow, that might be one of the hardest tongue twisters in a long time. During that opening montage, Puss eats shellfish and dies as a result. Woo! Did it. Now, it's played for a joke movie, but shellfish allergies are definitely a thing that can happen to a cat. In fact, many of the symptoms are similar to what we see Puss dealing with in the film. Hives, as well as swelling of the face and limbs. Admittedly, death is a bit of an extreme reaction to having this allergy. Normally, symptoms for cats are more mild, including hair loss, rashes, blisters, scratching, though some cats do experience respiratory problems as a result of the swelling.
To be fair to Puss, I mean, all of that would be the equivalent of death if he experienced that. I mean, he seems like all of that stuff, he would take it so seriously, would just put him into a massive state of depression.
Why am I bringing all that up? Well, because it shows us that Puss in Boots is sensitive to this kind of stuff. And throughout the movie, we see him consuming a lot of stuff that would be a no-go for a cat. Firstly, we're talking about Puss's drink-of-choice, creme, or milk, I suppose. We see him drink a lot of it throughout the movie. It almost seems to have this alcoholic property for Puss, but that's not how real cats react to drinking milk. According to the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, milk can be bad news for our feline friends. See, adult cats are lactose intolerant. Their intestines don't have the enzyme lactase, which would help them break down the sugars in milk. And even if they could physically drink it, you probably shouldn't be giving your cat milk anyway. I didn't know that. Milk is full of fat. Basically, a saucer's worth of milk would be the equivalent of a human eating an entire 12-inch pizza in a day. And look at how much we see Puss in Boots drinking in just this movie alone.
And I'm telling you, a cat always lands on his... Ha! I am Puss in Boots. I am no one's lap cat.
Do you see all those empty glasses on the bar? From this aerial wide shot, I count at least 8 empty glasses plus the one that he's working on. And Puss
maybe he's grown a tolerance for it.
Make it your heaviest.
That right there is the equivalent of Puss eating 9+ full pizzas worth of fat in just one sitting. This is coming the day after he had yet another milk binge. So despite what all the old cartoons said about giving your cats milk as a treat, do not do it. It is just super unhealthy and can lead to cats becoming overweight and or their early
I had
death.
no idea.
Talk up one extra death for Puss. He met his maker through milk. But perhaps even worse than the milk, coffee. In the opening fight against the Giant of Del Mar, we see Puss do this.
Gracias.
Caffeine is really unhealthy for cats, to the point that it can be seriously dangerous for them to consume considering their smaller bodies. If you want to know more about how crazy dangerous caffeine can be in higher doses with humans, we actually just did a video about that over on Food Theory. But for a cat, side effects from a cat consuming caffeine includes an increased heart rate, abnormal heart rhythms, vomiting, diarrhea, tremoring, seizures. According to the Pet Poison Helpline, a moderate amount of coffee can easily cause death in small dogs or cats. Now,
pop quiz. How much caffeine is a healthy amount for a human to take each day?
I have no clue.
Just take a guess. How many milligrams would you say?
16. I don't know.
16 milligrams?
I don't. I have no idea.
Okay, so a healthy amount of caffeine for a grown-up to take is 400.
Oh, okay. 400
milligrams.
That's
and
close.
So a single cup of... It's very... Cloud was like, whoa. Your average cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams, and your average cup of tea has somewhere between 50 and 75, as I understand. Whoa. What just happened there? Okay. Our audio's still running. Video's still running. The video's still recording. Everything's still recording. This is so bizarre. Everything's still running just fine, apparently. I don't know what the hell happened. Your average cup of tea has about 50 to 75 milligrams of caffeine. Your average cup of coffee has about 100. Part of what is causing health problems for people when they drink so many Red Bulls is just the sheer volume of caffeine. There's other things in Red Bull that are really bad for you, but like having that much caffeine in a single day can be really, really bad for your health. This is my 3rd cup of coffee, and so I'll stop usually around there. 4 at the very max. If you're having more than 400 milligrams of caffeine every day, then that's really bad for you in the long haul.
A moderate amount of coffee can easily cause death in small dogs or cats. Now, before you start freaking out and hiding all your coffee in a lockbox away from your animals, a small sip of coffee probably wouldn't impact a young, healthy animal too much. But Puss isn't that young anymore. So downing an entire cup of coffee like we see, that is gonna be bad news for this animal, and might literally have been the end of him if the bell didn't crush him to death mere minutes later. Caffeine overdose, death number 2. But it's likely that Puss would have died long before this movie. In fact, he would have died during the promotional tour for this movie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sean Evans, and you're watching Hot Ones.
It's a pleasure.
What?
Me, a fictional cat got onto Hot Ones before me. Screw that noise.
Yo, I feel your pain. I tried to get a Chara on there, but I mean, why would he take a Chara, right? She's just a YouTuber, but because Chara's super into spicy food, and I was like, oh my god, it'd be so awesome to see her like go head to head with Sean and eat spicy food. Like I'm still rooting for her to get on that show.
Trying to kill me, Sean.
No, but he's killing me, Puss. He's killing me. But yeah, he's probably killing you too. You see, the capsaicin in hot sauce is, as you might guess, dangerous for cats. With studies
he went
showing
all
that it can
in.
constrict breathing, cause severe irritation in their throats and digestive system, and in high enough doses, cause death. And when you're talking about a 2 million Scoville hot sauce, yeah, I'd say that's a fairly high dose for a feline.
They do that all the
And then,
time.
of course, you have the literal tankard of milk.
My kingdom for Latin.
Hot Ones, taking out Puss's life before he needed a last wish. Capsaicin calamity, death number 3. Seriously, Sean, when you do eventually have me on, promise I won't make a mess of your studio.
That measurement that they have of 2 million Scoville, whatever it's called, I forgot. They're always showing you like a measurement of the millions. And at that point, it's like, it loses relevance or any meaning at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back in the day, this is going to sound weird, like a weird connection, but I do that sometimes. With monitors, you know, back in the day, they would say like 1,000,000 to 1 contrast ratio, 10 billion to 1 contrast ratio. And then you do some Google searching, you find out all these numbers are arbitrary, just being made up by the company, just to like make their shit look better. That's why that doesn't mean anything to me.
Clearly, Puss has himself some dietary issues, but there are other choices that he makes that probably would have gotten him killed a lot sooner. Specifically, the whole in boots thing. Sure, your drip may be on fleek there, Puss, but you should not be wearing all these clothes in your particular line of work. I don't know if you've ever tried to dress up your cat, but they do not enjoy it. In fact, a lot of experts recommend against dressing up your cat at all, mostly because it causes them a lot of stress with no real benefit other than some fake internet points for you.
There's the famous hat, the feather, and of course, the boots.
But even if Puss is the exception here and enjoys his clothes, his attire will have deadly consequences. Let's just start from the top, shall we? First of all, the hat. This one item of clothing would probably get Puss killed for 2 different reasons. First, by wearing a wide-brimmed hat like Puss does in the series, he wouldn't be able to take full advantage of his whiskers.
Yeah.
You see, cats don't see the world the same way that we do. They have a whole suite of abilities to help them sense what's around them, and their whiskers are a crucial part of that system.
Right.
The whiskers act like a sort of radar, able to sense changes in air currents, vibrations in the air. They also serve as the first level of alert if anything gets too close to their face. Additionally, while a cat's long-distance eyesight is good, at very close distances, they struggle to see anything that's closer than 30 centimeters in front of them. As a result, their whiskers help them navigate that close-up world. By touching the whiskers against objects, they can tell where things are, how big they are, even sensing their texture. But the hat is gonna stop all of that from happening. It's gonna change the airflow. It's gonna change vibrations. It's gonna prevent Puss from getting his face close to objects so his whiskers can touch them. Basically, the hat is gonna be dulling one of his most important senses. Or, I suppose I should say 2 of his most important senses. You notice what else the hat covers? His ears. That would be a problem regardless of whether you're talking about a human or an animal. Basically, you're just muffling the sound, allowing enemies to more easily flank or sneak up on you. Almost exactly like we see Death do in the movie. If Death here didn't want to be so dramatic, he could have killed Puss and gone about his business without the cat being any the wiser. But the dulling of his hearing is actually worse for Puss because he's a cat. You see, cats have some of the best hearing of pretty much any animal you're gonna have around the house, with a wider auditory range than both humans and dogs. But we're not just talking about better hearing ranges. Cats have a lot of muscle control over their ears, and they're able to turn their ears towards any source of sound. I don't know if you've ever noticed that with any cats that you know, but if you make a sound in a quiet room, just notice how their ears are able to pivot in your direction. That's a big antenna or a radar disc. This cool technique increases their hearing sensitivity by 15 to 20%.
Wow,
Wearing a hat
that's
is gonna eliminate all of that. And that's without even mentioning all the other biological ramifications. Wearing a hat basically nerfs all of a cat's hearing benefits. And all of this is without even mentioning the other biological ramifications, like the fact that cats release a lot of their excess heat when stressed through their ears, meaning that Puss is gonna be sweltering in any battle he's in the middle of. All in all, he may look dapper, but that's a Hatastrophe that's waiting to happen.
You know, I love how seriously he's taking this to the point of absurdity. It's so absurd and so ridiculous. Like, why would anybody go deep dive this much to the point of looking at the Hot Ones promotion and going, this would have killed him too? It's ridiculous, and I love it.
This doesn't take away my enjoyment of the film.
No, not at all.
But it is funny when you factor in like all these things should have killed him, and taking it so seriously. But that's the success of this channel. That's why he does these things, and I'm all here for it. I love it.
Death number 4. Similarly, Puss's cape is also going to be causing him a massive problem. For all intents and purposes, the cape is going to act like a collar, but just much more dangerous than a normal collar. See, though putting a collar on your cat is usually fine and helps identify your feline friend to strangers, they can be dangerous in specific situations.
Really?
If they become snagged on some sort of object like a branch or a rock, then the cat might be choked or strangled. The cape is going to present all of the exact same problems, but 10 times worse because it's just a bolt of fabric that's hanging from his neck. Puss's cape is just an open invitation for him to be caught and choked, especially in a fight with an enemy who's smart enough to just grab the thing. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what we see happen in this new movie. Honestly, Edna Mode from The Incredibles been right about this one for decades.
No capes.
Death number 5, no escape for this cape. But perhaps the worst in his whole attire, the boots. You ever notice how cats try to get anything that's stuck on their feet off? Puss himself literally does this in the movie when he's forced to wear those little kitten mittens.
Stupid mittens.
Cats don't like having their paws covered for a lot of reasons. Some of them are kind of mundane, like the fact that there are scent glands in their paws that help them mark their territory. They're also comforted by kneading their little cat beans on their owners' stomachs. But other reasons are a lot more serious. The most obvious one is that paw pads are a massive shock absorber. They help cats remain quiet and stealthy. Cats literally evolved to walk on their toes so they can move more silently. Changing that up to loud, heavy boots click-clacking as Puss moves around is gonna give up a massive natural advantage that cats have as fighters. Another problem, cats actually sweat through their paws, mostly when they're nervous. Ever take your cat to the vet and notice that there's damp little footprints everywhere? So if Puss in Boots ever gets anxious or scared, he's gonna basically be standing in a pool of his own sweat in the boots, on top of getting himself in
dogs sweat
sweaty
through their
palms and
paws.
dropping his sword everywhere. Huh, wonder if we've ever seen that in the movie.
I heard that dogs sweat through their paws.
I just love the smell of fear.
But not only is it a problem in battle, it's also just unhealthy for Puss. Sweating helps regulate your body temperature, cooling you by evaporating on the skin. This works the same way with the sweat coming from cat paws, but it simply wouldn't be possible if 2 of Puss's paws were in leather boots that don't breathe at all. They'd be sticky.
I wonder if he thought about this while he was watching the movie.
And if anyone is in need of staying cool, it's Puss.
Trust me, I run hot.
Without the ability to sweat unimpeded, Puss is running the risk of overheating, especially during those anxious fits after he fights death. And on top of all of that, just like the hat covering his ears, covering up Puss's paws are also going to be a massive disadvantage when it comes to his senses. It's not super common knowledge, but cats actually have tiny tactile hairs between their paw pads that act similarly to whiskers. These hairs not only act as a protective covering against debris, chemicals, or exposure to the elements, but along with nerve receptors in the pads themselves, they let the cat know a lot about the ground that they're walking on. What sort of material is it? What's the temperature? With the boots, he's losing basically all of the feedback that cats get from their paw pads and the hairs touching the ground. In short, it's a recipe for death number 6, death in boots. So, is that it? Did his vet/barber have the right idea in the film when he said that Puss should abandon his outfit and retire? That he should be living out his life with that old woman, Mama Luna, lounging around the house as a normal house cat? Well, not exactly. Resigning himself to a life of pickles,
Who told you the name?
may just have been the most dangerous thing for him in the movie. See, despite this being the simple, easy life for Puss in Boots, he should not be spending his sunset years with Mama Luna. And it all comes down to one super simple thing, poop. You see, despite being played as a joke in the film, there's only one litter box in her entire house. Only one. A single box for, how many cats does she have? Dozens, at least. If you pause the movie at this wide shot, you can count at least 45 cats in the house, including Puss. Frankly, that is just far too many cats to be sharing a single litter box. Unless Mama Luna's cleaning that box every single time a cat goes potty, which she is definitely not given how gross that thing looks and how comically long the queue is to use it, the cats are gonna be actively stepping in each other's waste. Not only is that just disgusting, this setup would create a hotspot for the spread of disease between the cats. The most serious of these fecal-borne diseases is a type of coronavirus infection that can mutate into feline infectious peritonitis, or FIP, a disease that's commonly fatal to cats. So yet again, Puss choosing this life would probably have also led to his premature death. Death number 7, one crappy way to die. Honestly, if Puss really wanted to choose a life that wouldn't be courting death, that wouldn't be putting him in constant danger for no reason, he just needs to be a normal house cat. So Puss, hang up your sweaty boots and your sound dampening hat and find yourself a nice old lady who doesn't have 44 other cats. All in all, by my count, Puss probably should have died a total of 7 extra times than we see recounted in the movie. In total, we're talking about 15 deaths. Looking at it that way, a sickle-carrying wolf and a unicorn horn crossbow are probably the least of Puss's concerns. Really, when it comes to valuing your life, a lot of times it's the little things, the small everyday decisions that ultimately add up to the life that's well lived. Maybe that's why Wolfie was following him the whole time. It wasn't to punish Puss for his reckless adventuring, but instead to consult him on proper dress and a heart-healthy diet to keep him alive longer. Seriously, even if he got his wish for another 9 lives, he'd still only have 3 remaining. Why not ask for like, I don't know, 100 extra lives there, Puss? I guess counting really isn't your strong suit.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it was funny. And now whenever I watch that movie, I'm gonna look at it in a very different light. But no, there were some interesting things in there because I had a cat for about 15, 16 years. I didn't do any of these things. I never actually gave him milk.
You never put him in boots and a hat?
I wanted to, but I didn't, just for Puss in Boots, but I did not. But in regards to like the kitty litter, I was thinking that when we were watching the film, I was like, 1 kitty litter for that many cats? First of all, the smell. I mean, just like having 1 cat, and whenever he would go to the restroom, if I didn't clean that like every couple hours, the smell was horrendous. Then having like 44 other cats in there and then doing it all in 1 kitty litter, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, not even for the cats also, it can't be like safe for her, like the smell, the toxin.
No, not at all.
So yeah, I was definitely thinking that. I just didn't know like the sweat glands and then what they're stepping in and all that. I wasn't even thinking about that.
You gave me a sudden weird flashback of like going to a girl's place that I was interested in, and she had a cat, and there was like a smell, and I was like, what is that? Oftentimes people keep the kitty litter in their bathroom.
That's where I kept it.
And I went to her bathroom, and there was like a
trail of kitty litter.
No, there was a giant turd in the kitty litter and a lot of poop. And I was just like,
I can just see your face right now when you're going to the restroom and you're just looking like, this prospect's not working for me.
Like, I don't know, man. If I have a pet, I'm keeping the pet within reason. I'm keeping the pet clean and hygienic, right? Because obviously, human standards are different than animal standards. That just like wigged me out.
They do. I was just gonna say they have these kitty litter things now. I don't know if you've seen them. They cost, I don't know if they're like $1,000, whatever they cost.
Whatever it is, I'll pay it.
Yeah. Basically they go to the restroom and the thing right when it senses that.
That's what it should. Yeah, we needed that a long time ago.
It twirls it and it's somehow I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comment section how it gets rid of it. But apparently it gets rid of it. You don't need to clean it at all, and it's got the decent smell afterwards.
If only we had something like that for human diapers.
Right.
That'd be great. Make raising a child easier.
But I had no idea in regards to the milk because I had always.
That's why you don't have a cat anymore. Your cat didn't die, did it?
He did.
He did? What happened?
Yeah.
You gave it milk?
No, he just had kidney failure. It was old, too. It was like 17. Again, I'd never given him milk, but I'd always thought milk was an okay product to give cats. I mean,
me
from
too.
The stereotype you ever see in movies and just in general, I thought milk was always okay.
Absolutely.
So I had never known that fact.
No, me neither. That shocked me just as much as it shocked you, I guess. It's strange what we are taught by cartoons or film, and we just take it for granted because of seeing it so often that the frequent exposure of it conditions you to believe that is an acceptable thing. And then you come to find out it's absolutely not. So the thing is, you're all right as long as your cat is not older, because he was specifically saying the older cats are the ones that are lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
So there's that. As just as a counter argument, I kind of mentioned it already, maybe Puss in Boots grew tolerances to certain things, like milk as a thing. Some people can drink gobs and gobs of alcohol, while another person can only do like one thing and then they're knocked out. Maybe he grew a tolerance to it, and it gives him sort of that buzz effect. Even several 8-10 glasses of milk, he's just buzzed instead of dying. That's my constant argument for all of this. It's just he conditioned himself. He conditioned himself to learn how to use the boots. Or maybe he had special kinds of boots that allowed him to feel the stuff. Like those feet gloves that people would wear? At one point, people were wearing those and they could feel the ground better. Maybe his boots are the same way.
Yeah, but you said it earlier. I was kind of wondering, and I'm just kind of wondering the guy who's in charge of this channel, when he watches these films, like, does he think these things in the moment, or is it just like afterwards? He's like, all right, I gotta come up with a title of the video. Let me think of the subject of what I need to do. Because I'm very curious of that.
It's probably both. It just depends. But in this particular instance, I was like legit wondering if while he was watching it, he was just kind of freaking out a little bit. Like one part of his brain is going, I'm enjoying this, 10 out of 10. The other part of his brain is going, this would totally kill him.
No, the hat would stop the whiskers.
Yes.
No, he needs his paws for the sweat glands and all that. The boots. No, this doesn't work for me. I mean, the movie's good, but that doesn't work. Logistically speaking.
You guys, thanks so much for hanging with us. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm Jabby Kaway. This is
Andrew Flash Gordon.
Peace out.